put this on the record first. For as long as I've been doing this show, and it's been 5 years now in its various forms, I have invested an episode in something that a former Steeler would say about the current Steelers exactly once. And that was in 2021, when the greatest of all the Steelers, Mean Joe Green, rightly ripped the Steelers 23-0 loss to the Vikings up in Minneapolis. Today will mark the second such occasion. Good morning to you. Good Thursday morning. I'm Dejan Kovacevic of DK Pittsburgh Sports. This is Daily Shot of Steelers. It comes your way bright and early every weekday if you're into hockey and or baseball. I also offer daily shots of Penguins and Pirates in the same place that you found this. Hope you'll take the time to check those out as well. I was up there in Minneapolis covering that game, and for the flight home to Pittsburgh, I'd seen the news on my phone that Mr. Green had referred to that performance as, quote, the saddest day, end quote, mostly because the Steelers just got trampled by the Minnesota running game, but also because that was the day that Chase Claypool motioned for the first down and all that other stuff. Just a bad day to be even peripherally associated with the Steelers, much less to be the franchise figurehead that Mr. Green remains to this day. Yesterday, I woke up thinking only about the Steelers' ongoing OTAs, the players that are in the fold, some of the other things to keep an eye on, standard OTA stuff. And when I saw the entry on our DK Pittsburgh Sports app that Terry Bradshaw had criticized the Steelers as it relates to their handling of quarterbacks, my first thought was the same thought I have every time Bradshaw has anything to say. It was whatever, so what? He talks all the time, he talks for a living, and there's current football to be covered. And then I read what it was that he had to say on an Arkansas radio station. The first of which had to do with the ongoing and real pursuit of Aaron Rodgers. Bradshaw said, and I quote directly here, "That's a joke. That to me is just a joke. What are you going to do? Bring him in for 1 year? Are you kidding me? That guy needs to stay in California. Go somewhere and chew on bark and whisper to the gods out there." End quote. Never, ever say that Bradshaw's not colorful. He also had the following to say as it relates to Kenny Pickett. Quoting again, "I liked Kenny Pickett. I liked him at Pitt. I know him. I know what he's like. When they got him to Pittsburgh, they didn't protect him. They didn't get him an offensive line. They wanted to run the football, but they didn't have an offensive line that could protect, and they didn't have weapons. He had no wide receivers to speak of. Then they throw a kid in there for 2 years, and you've got an offense that doesn't fit and doesn't work, and they can't run because their offensive line's not even good enough for a run-blocking team. Now they're saying Kenny Pickett is a failure. He wasn't a failure. The Steelers were a failure." End quote. I'm going to take this Pickett one first because it is not a stance that's commonly expressed, but it's a stance that merits some conversation. Let me put this another way. Independent of whatever you or I might think about Pickett's performance, much less his petulance in demanding a trade out of here as soon as he heard that Russell Wilson was going to be signed, what about all the rest of this was incorrect? What about the way that the Steelers built that offense at that time for Pickett was incorrect that Bradshaw spoke? I can't think of one thing. Not one thing. We all saw that offensive line. We all saw that lack of weapons. We all saw Matt Canada as a coordinator. So what Bradshaw's getting at there, at the risk of putting words into his mouth that he definitely doesn't need my help to do, isn't that Pickett is some sort of football god that the Steelers just did wrong by. It's the process that he's getting at. It's him pointing out, and I think fairly so, that the Steelers made such a priority of getting a quarterback, and this quarterback in particular, and then did not a bleeping thing around him. This is going to be really hard. I know this in advance. I can sense this reaction already from everybody to try to compartmentalize this. It's not about whether Kenny's good or not. It's about the way they handled that situation. It's not placing the well-being of the quarterback at the top of your list, which is where it should have been since like 2018, the first time that Ben Roethlisberger hinted that he might retire. Following me on this now? I'm not worried about how you get this as much as how I'm explaining it, whether I'm doing a good enough job of relaying what I want to get across. It's not about Kenny. It's about what they did around Kenny. Huge difference. Draw a line between the two. Now, let's go to the Rodgers stuff. Not for the sake of revisiting all the arguments I've already made on this one, but to try to understand how and why Bradshaw linked those two things. Because that's where he's the most correct. He says, look, they brought in Pickett as a first rounder. They didn't do anything to make that happen other than to just kind of anoint and wish. And now, here they are, I believe Bradshaw is saying, several years later, and this is your answer? I'm going to read his quote again. That's a joke. That, to me, is just a joke. What are you going to do? Bring him in for 1 year? Are you kidding me? Ending the quote there. I'm going to tell you this right here, my friends, and I'm going to do it in a way that's going to somehow lump Bradshaw in with other former Steelers quarterbacks with whom I've communicated in recent years, not all of them of the big name variety, and let you know that there is not one of them who believes that this head coach has the first clue about how to navigate the position. For all those years with Ben here, he didn't have to. Ben took care of everything. Ben was the quarterback and the one who figured out everything related to the quarterbacks. It never had to cross Tomlin's to-do list. And ever since it has been on his list, A, it's been buried too deep, and B, he's bungled even that much. Now he's about to do it again. When we come back, J1Q. This segment of Daily Shot is brought to you by our good friends at Mike's Beer Bar. They're located on Federal Street, directly across from PNC Park. Mike has more than 500 beers on tap, including from more than 50 local breweries. Stop in and say hello. Tell Mike we sent you. Mike's Beer Bar. J1Q comes from Brian, who says, DK, if Patrick Queen was so sick in that playoff game in Baltimore, why did the Steelers let him play? Look, anything is fair game. In hindsight, you get trampled the way the Steelers did by the Ravens that day. And when it's in a specific area, like the run game, and it's a specifically pointed nasty total, like 299 yards, and it's being shoved right down your gut by the same player again and again and again, and it's not something that the franchise has been used to, although I referenced in the opening segment Mean Joe Green being upset about Dalvin Cook and the Vikings doing something similar 4 years ago. It's going to sting. It should sting. And questions should be and are being asked as to what happened and why. I asked my own of Queen this week here at OTAs. And to his credit, he answered all of them. He talked about the Ravens running the way they did, the Ravens bragging about it afterward the way they did. A lot of it pointed specifically at Queen, their old teammate, and asked about his condition that day, because I didn't have to wonder about it. I was in the room with him afterward, and I really didn't want to be. I mean, he was a mess. But in the broadest sense possible, and I mean across all sports, participatory sports, amateur sports, you have the opportunity to be in the big game. You're going to find a way to be in it if you can. And I don't know certainly not off the top of my head, of many instances of any of the teams that I've covered over the years, or for that matter, the Olympics or anything, where a sickness or an illness, or in this case, food poisoning, held somebody out. The start time, the kickoff, the drop of the puck, the first pitch, the gun going off, it doesn't wait for you. It doesn't adjust. And in Queen's case, he's the green dot guy, as you heard me discussing with him in the sound that I played for you yesterday. If he's not out there, and I save all the jokes, okay? But if he's not out there, that defense really gets shredded. I know that happened anyway, but it has no chance. Are there others who are equipped with being that player, prepared for the possibility that they might need to be that player on a given afternoon? Yeah, but it's not the same thing. It's not the same thing. So the coaches are all aware of how he's feeling. I'm sure that discussions are had in the morning. I'm sure they're had all the way through warm-ups. But once the commitment's made, once the player says, yeah, I'm going, there's really not a whole lot else to go over. And look, I'm not saying it was the right move to let him play. I'm not saying it was the right move on Queen's part to make himself available to play. I am saying that the way it unfolded is really the norm. It just is. I appreciate the question. I appreciate everybody listening to Daily Shot of Steelers. We'll be back with another one of these tomorrow. Don't forget to tune in today at 4 p.m. Eastern Time for our double shot of Steelers. We'll have fresh stuff for you from day 3 of OTAs, including some video clips and all kinds of fun. Again, that's 4 p.m. Eastern on our YouTube channel, as well as, of course, on our DK Pittsburgh Sports app and website. Hope to see you then. Thanks so much for listening.